and we are connecting to LinkedIn. Perfect. As usual, LinkedIn is the slow one. Awesome. Um, they're behind everything anyway. I only added them as a last second just because it was easy. It was the click of a button. And that's kind of how we find ourselves in the situation that we're currently in today. Welcome to the first ever Memetic Marketing Monday. So I decided to do this as an initiative with Build Public University because of a number of reasons. But first and foremost is because I have been trying to figure out what the hell I'm actually good at anymore. It's really weird. I've always fancied myself as a builder of things, an engineer, and I had this vision of who I was, and this is the power of the memes that we carry, and this is why I really wanted to include the word memetic in here. This is something at the core of my research, but we are the memes that we carry around about ourselves, and this was something that was made pretty obvious to me last week, and it was something I had to deal with because I realized that I am not a particularly great builder anymore. I burnt out, um, and there was a time that I was a great builder. I had the ability to engineer the shit out of a system and make it reliable and basically me proof, which is one of the benefits of having ADHD. You're a great product tester and process tester because you're constantly breaking it wherever it's flawed, and it will be flawed and you will break it. Um, and for a lot of years that was a great thing, except over time I burnt out with it. And what I've had to realize is that I'm not an engineer anymore. Um, and there's a really interesting uh, thing going on here where I realized there's this message I had internalized. And so uh, I was an early employee at Copy AI, and I was there for about 2.5 years. And during my time there, I realized something about what the world was going to look like in the future. And basically, my point was that we need to be thinking about, with the rate of development of these systems, we need to have a way to have a pipeline of people who are learning our systems as they're changing and then constantly uh, helping them upskill existing users. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to create this, it basically was a self-sustaining social network. And this was at the time of my social networking research. And I said, hey, this is going to help me if I can restructure my role as a social network engineer. Um, because I'm trying to talk about what I'm doing. And this is when, they were saying things like, "Oh yeah, it's great that you're like having a side project," and like, "Yeah, we totally support that." And in reality, I didn't actually get a lot of support, and it's probably because I wasn't good at asking for it. I'm still pretty bad at asking for it, which is a lot of how I ended up here doing this. But anyway, so I presented this idea, and basically, my manager came back at me with like, "What? So you want to like be a marketer now? Like, there's a pay cut." Um, and I didn't realize how much I kind of internalized that as being like lowering my value by kind of defining myself as a marketer. And I've had a hell of a time defining myself actually. That's been kind of the problem because I do build software, but I also write. I've done podcasting. I've got my Idea Supply Chain YouTube channel, which now we're live streaming to. under kind of this build and public university umbrella. Um, and I've been really trying to do a lot of research into what AI means for the world. And it turns out that when you're telling the people who are funding all of the rapid changes that, hey, maybe they have a problem that they should address because their model is actually causing some issues, and in fact, it's going to break pretty soon. They don't actually like to hear that. And I've been thinking a lot um, about the beginning of my journey. And it happened during the pandemic. And I got started writing online. I started writing for Medium. And that's where I made my first internet dollar. And I was writing about the fact that I had figured out that I was ADHD and autistic. So I suddenly felt like I had the right instruction manual for how my brain worked because I've been trying to make it adhere to all these different things for years and wasn't able to do so. I was on like anxiety and depression medication. I was in absolutely terrible shape. I had to be on medicine just to stay awake. And then, pandemic hits and I'm gaining all of this self-awareness because suddenly I can construct my space and my workday the way I need to, without all of the kind of external pressures which come from being observed. Um, and I realized that like I could take all that and start making money online. And I was like, wait a minute, my salary is pretty linear. And basically my entire experience up to this point was like it's basically a linear growth for a couple years, and then you have to jump ship because otherwise you're never going to actually like be paid what you're worth. Um, the rate of salary increases were in no way correlated with the amount of learning someone did, especially me. I'd always prided myself on being a fast learner. Um, I basically consider myself someone who was learning at startup speeds and performing at startup speeds, but in a corporate environment, which honestly is not great in a corporate environment because guess what? When you go fast, you make other people look slow, and there's a lot of politics around that I had to kind of figure out how to navigate. Um, and some of the metrics end up different, and so it's like, oh well, you use cause you ended up creating twice as many bugs. Like, well, yeah, I shipped twice as many tickets. Well, yeah, but you created twice as many bugs. Okay, but I'm still performing at the same like bugs per ticket. It's just more tickets. That sums up a lot of my experience in corporate, unfortunately. And so, I had tried to interview at a couple different startups and just I'd never gotten offered. Um, so then I started writing online. And I was like, okay, well now I see this exponential possibility. Like, okay, I'm making $1 now, and I just wrote one article. So if I write 100 articles, I'll make $100, right? This is a very naive kind of observation and reaction. But this is the power of memes, right? There is a meme of being able to have an exponential outcome for your life. And we're seeing more people realize this. This is the rise of creators, the rise of startups. People are realizing that the employment uh, offer is really getting less and less appealing, um, because there's so many different exponential possibilities out there for you. Why would you settle for a linear one? And you know, starting out, it was basically like you were guaranteed an exponential outcome if you were focused on learning as fast as possible. But over time, there's been all of this pressure to learn as fast as possible for the sake of the people at the top of an organization. And what they're doing is they are basically pushing risk downward. And so, um, the economics research I've been doing around memetics and what's actually valuable in terms of information shows me that, like, in a large organization, the vast majority of the work and effort is the people who are creating the data, the people who are doing the work. The people who are making decisions actually tend to um, make bad decisions and overly reward themselves for the bad decisions that they make. They've created a system in which there is absolutely no accountability for failure. And basically, they can continue to fail and get rich because of the work that everybody is doing below them. And because this is a hierarchy and kind of the value of information goes up to the top because you are looking at a longer term picture with a more complete map of the territory, you've always got this advantage versus someone who's down in the trenches. And as someone who is leading, it's your goal to actually, like, put your army, your team, whatever, in a position to win. And right now, we've created this society, especially in the US, but because the US is doing it and doing it faster than everybody, it's kind of forcing everybody to keep up, which is becoming an issue. Especially now that we were going super fast and decided to just fucking wreck everything because that's how we blow shit up now. Um, there's this complete chaos that's happening right now. And so we've got all of these people at the top who are basically compressing the information created by the people underneath them. They're using that information badly to make bad decisions, and then they're getting rich off of it. And in fact, the ones who are getting the richest are then accumulating kind of the most power because it's a system that's kind of designed to give you as much as you want. And that's the magic of capitalism. It's actually demand driven, not supply driven. So everything starts from a demand, an intention, a desire. Elon Musk wants to go to the moon. All of his work is designed around this goal. And to do that requires him to have power. And so he seeks power. He seeks more resources. He seeks what he needs to accomplish his goal. And this is true of every entrepreneur. It's also true of every employee. We've just done a really bad job of upholding what used to be a good deal when you couldn't measure everything, because basically everything was just kind of assumed to be like it was as good as you were going to get it because you couldn't compare it to things globally. When you have a limited pool of people and you've got an office that's working well, you're not trying to figure out how to replace that office with something cheaper. The search cost of replacement is too expensive. As the search cost of replacement has gone down, what's happened is the risk has pooled at these, kind of local offices. These local people are always absorbing the risk. And banks are also optimizing against risk. And so what's happening is we've got one part of the economy pushing all of the risk out of their economic systems into the bottom, where they have the least amount of visibility and the least amount of power to change their situation from the position in the system. And then we've got financial structures that say, oh, actually, you're not predictable, so you're risky. And we're just, you know what? We don't want to risk losing money because we've got all these investments that we want to make that are much bigger. And so it's easier to make you just not part of the system. So, you know what? You don't actually need money. And in fact, you're going to probably have to give us more and more of yours because you're kind of a risk. oh, but over here you've got money. Yeah, we'll be glad to help you out and give you more money because um, you apparently know how to keep us in the loop with giving us money, and this is both a great thing and a terrible thing. And what's happened is basically we've scaled both simultaneously, and what we've had is we've got, on one hand, the people who are succeeding are doing so very, very well. Um, but the capture isn't happening fast enough to actually understand the rate of learning of all the different parts in the system. And so what we've done is we've wrapped this up and we've called it equity. And it's this long-term capture of the value of a learning of a system. And then, you can kind of pull this out and call it the stock price of a company as kind of this like, you know, determination of whether a company is learning and improving and the value is going up, or the company is basically getting dumber, more complex, and basically complexity inflation is going up. And this is kind of my term for what's happening with companies now, where as they get larger and they've developed more lines of communication, um, because of the incentives they've created, they've basically got this entirely huge risk in this kind of communication structure, because it's not going to fare well against AI optimized systems that are designed to destroy it, which is exactly what's going to happen, and destroy it in the sense of taking away the inputs of the system, uh, so cutting them out of the market, because the market's not going to pay for a giant outdated structure longer than it needs to. And in fact, I'm going to ensure that, because a lot of what I'm doing here is basically to destroy all these structures, because frankly they annoy me, and they've made my life a lot harder too. And so it's about time to repay the favor, which is kind of my whole thing with Make the Internet Weird Again. And this is chaos marketing. And one of the things that I've realized is that if I had money, there are a lot of things that would be easier, because I could gain access to a guaranteed audience over a long enough time to figure out if I had a viable product or anything like that. I don't have that ability right now. All the research and the products and stuff that I've built hasn't panned out into anything that the economy has been willing to pay for. I've been trying to get this idea funded since 2020, and kind of going back into that story. Um, Writing online, I uh, I ended up optimizing for the metrics that I saw, right? And this is what we all do. We optimize around what we can see, and we optimize around our goals. And so you can kind of reconstruct the viewpoint of anybody from any point in the system if you understand what their goals are, and what the incentive structures are, um, because then you can pretty easily predict behaviors, right? Um, and when you actually add this to communication, that gets interesting. And so I was thinking about this, and I was like, okay, so I've got this writing on Medium now. I'm making some money. Okay, so I need to figure out how to do this better. I'm going to take a course. Um, and so I take this writing course because I'm not a writer. I've been an engineer. And in fact, I kind of hated writing. I didn't realize, like, I'd only ever done it for school. So here I am writing. I'm kind of enjoying it. I want to figure out more about making money on it. And so I joined this group run by a guy on Medium who was selling a course because he had been successful on Medium. So now he was teaching other people how to do it. This is a pattern that I noticed over and over again. And it's something that it's important to keep in mind. But I'm going to pass over it for now and probably get back to it either later or maybe in a different discussion down the line if that comes up. Um, but I, uh, I took this course, and one of the kind of exercises we were supposed to do was on writing with emotion. And this whole emotion thing was kind of new to me because it was again, just realized I'd been autistic and basically avoided feeling emotions because frankly data was easier. I'd always tried to just be fully rational. Like I don't want to feel things. Feelings are messy and unpredictable. I don't like that. um but now I'm being told to write with emotion, and so I tried it, and I ended up getting into this huge fight with my dad over politics because that's what happened back in 2020. And I wrote this post, and I really tried to get a headline that would get people to click. That was one of the things we had to focus on. It was an emotional headline. Um, and so it was, today I gave my dad a choice: Trump or his grandkids. Hell of a headline. I mean, in terms of capturing emotion, um, because it did. I can tell you that, and I know it captured emotions because guess what? All those emotions ended up being directed at me, and then I was directing them back into social media as the cycle goes, um, and it created a hell of a of an adrenaline rush. Like I'm getting into these social media arguments, and I'm watching the numbers start climbing. And like the more I fight with people, like the more the numbers go up. And I'm like, okay, great, numbers are going up, and that means I'm making money. And so this was like over the course of a weekend. And as the kind of adrenaline wore off, and I was like thinking about what I had just been doing for the last couple of days, I was like, wait a minute, like this is not what I started out doing. Um, this isn't what I intended, but it got out of control, and I kind of went with it. And, in the end, it was maybe not great. And so I was like, okay, this is not who I want to be. And so basically, I took the post down and I replaced it with links to a couple others. One that kind of described like basically how I had structured the article, because it was designed, like, I mean, it was designed for virality. That was the goal of the post. Um, it was really stupidly designed for virality. Um, and it was designed for virality by an engineer who forgot that, like, you know, people existed, and, maybe you shouldn't just fuck with people's emotions like that. Especially when you're not all that great with them yourself. Um, and then shit got weird after that because, like, I was like, okay, great, I took this down. Um, but then I like started getting targeted harassment against me, which was fun. That was a new experience. I didn't see that coming. So that was a cool way to understand how targeted harassment campaigns online feel. The answer is not great. I also had people trying to get me fired from work, which was fun, having to have a talk with my boss about, why there were people trying to get me fired. Um, and like I didn't do anything that was wrong. In the sense of like legally, they had no basis to fire me or anything. This had nothing to do with work. Um, I was being an asshole. Certainly, not my best self. Kind of having a bit of an emotional breakdown, on Twitter and whatnot while sharing this post. Um, yeah, definitely not my best self. Uh, cool thing though was my most visible self, which has been awesome because you know, my first reaction after that, um, well, I was, kind of dealing with the targeted harassment, and then it actually like it went offline, and I'll be honest, this is when it got scary. Um, because I got like physical hate mail. Um, and that was really weird. Like first of all, it wasn't sent to my actual address, which was somewhat helpful. But it was forwarded along from where it was sent. And basically I was like, okay, this is really weird. And so I looked up like suspicious mail um on Google back then because we didn't have things like ChatGPT, right? Um, Good God, how much the world has changed. Anyway, um, I'm looking up suspicious mail because I wanted to figure out if this qualifies. And basically, it checked every box. Out of state, sent to an unknown address. Um, and so I got a couple pieces of this hate mail. And so then I had the incredibly fun experience of calling the cops and asking them to like come check out this weird mail I got. And they're like, why do you think it's suspicious? And I'm like, because there's a bunch of people online who are mad at me. He's like, well, why are they mad at you? And I'm like, well, I wrote this, political piece. And I'll be honest, like, I live in a very conservative area. Like, I grew up here. I am not that conservative. Although, what I've come to realize since is, um, it's not as, there's absolutely no need for it to be as polarizing as it is. Um, but I completely understand why it is polarizing. And it has to do with this whole idea of risk that I've been talking about. And this is like where the risk is going in the economy. And it's not going into, like, it's not being distributed correctly. And it's one of the major issues with the economy right now. And it's something that I've been talking about because we're not putting money into the correct areas. And because we're not putting money into the correct areas, there are a lot of problematic things that are going to happen. And, you know, one of the biggest issues right now is we basically have a lot of incredibly dumb AIs running the world. Um, and that's a good way to think of it. Because you can actually think of any network of people as an AI. Um, and once you realize that, then you understand that the AI can be disrupted in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that we're finding right now is that as these large companies are getting faced with AI, they can't communicate at the speeds necessary because they haven't been focused on aligning things where they need to. And this means that there's a huge amount of um, complexity just waiting to be attacked with AI. And the way I'm doing this is with this model that I'm calling human insurance, um, which basically I want to buy up all of the human risk that is being created by companies not factoring the people on the other end of the database in their risk calculations. And there are some interesting ways I can do this over long term, capturing enough data. But what I found out is that VCs don't care. Um, it's the best way to put it. Um, when I first went, okay, so I guess I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. let's finish off the story about going viral, um, which then will get into the point I want to make, which, so, you know, I go viral, I get hate mail, and then I'm like thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get rid of social media. And so that's how I find myself streaming live 5 years later. No, I got rid of it, but I started poking at it, and I was like, why? Like, how did I get so far off course in such a short amount of time? And the answer is a mind virus, and that is like it is the best way to describe it. Our brains are designed to make predictions about the future. And the predictions that we're making about the future are based on the information that we get. When we let algorithms dictate what we see, we end up putting ourselves at risk of being infected. This was more obvious during the pandemic because more people were online. The thing with online is that it feels like we have way more context because we're seeing way more information. But all of that information is being filtered through a vast like number of incentive structures. It's impossible to trace. And this gets into what I want to talk about later, which is this idea of chaos marketing and kind of the idea of non-fungible dollars. Um, and one of the things that I started realizing with this was like, wait a minute. I was looking at how information was flowing through networks, and I was like, okay, so actually, this hierarchy model is the most efficient way to take in a bunch of information from like parts of a system and compress that down into an understanding of a system. When you think of an AI, if you take like the nodes of the hierarchy and make it all of the inputs that go into an AI, it's a really vast spanning like hierarchy of information that gets um, ingested and then kind of compressed down into the single model, the single node at the top of the hierarchy. Um, and I was like, okay, well, that's interesting because that makes sense for efficiency's sake. Um, but like, that's not how things are actually forming on social media exactly. Like it was different than that. Um, and then companies seem to not be doing it right either, and so I kind of continued pulling at that string. And what I realized is that basically the people who are capturing the data are defining the structure of the data and the value of the data. This is problematic for a number of reasons, but basically it doesn't actually create a live representation of um, a person in a system, right? You have this version of someone in a database that is representative of that person in real life, but it's not tied into changes. It's not reflecting anything um, specific about that user. It's kind of defined in the data context of a larger system. And then, in order to get all of our personal data, we're reliant on being able to get all of these different pieces from all of these different systems that are using our data in systems to market against us and just create all sorts of unknown risks for us while also maintaining a power structure over people that is keeping them into positions that are not actually recognizing them for like what they do. It all ends up just being this, highly compressed number on a spreadsheet. And so I went to a VP at the company I was at. This was in my big company days. And I was like, "Hey, look, I've got this idea." And it was in this healthcare data company at the time, and I was like, "Look, we just need to structure things so that people gain ownership over their own data and are able to more easily share it with the people that they need to share it with, because then you can enforce competition." And because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing at the time, I was like, so all I need in order to prove this is about $25 million in a team of people that I can choose. Um, I got laughed at. It turns out that's not how things are done, which I didn't believe necessarily that they were done that way. But one of the things that I realized is I was like, okay, I looked at the idea of having enough money as being a proxy for ability to affect systemic change. Um, and so I was like, okay, if I reach billionaire status, I will be able to have enough influence to be able to actually deploy a large enough structure to um, allow this like individualization of human data. I had this whole idea with like a human API. It was great. And I was like, yeah, okay, so if I just need to become a billionaire, and so I know that I have no idea how to deploy capital, and there's going to be a learning curve, and I'm very aware of like what I don't know, but I also know what I do know. And I was like, okay, so whatever, like this company has billions and billions and billions of dollars. Like, what the fuck is 25 million to them? Like, I've been working here for like 5 years. That should count for something, right? Nope, does not. And so I'm in this meeting, and basically this VP just laughs at me, and he's like, "Hey, look," he's like, "I get it." He goes, "I come from a startup background." It's like, he's like, if you really think you've got something here, he's like, you should go for it. And I remember that because at that moment there was 100% certainty that I had something. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind. Um, but then he followed that up with, "Oh yeah, by the way, if you decide to go ahead and like build it while still working here, we're going to own it because you work for us." And that's when my reaction turned from, I do think I have something, to, okay, fuck that. Like, I've been sitting here for months trying to get buy in across the organization, talking to people in different departments, coming to you with a plan, and you're going to say no, but also, like, if you do it, it's ours. And that's when I quit the next day, because I was like, I do think I have something. And that's when I learned how little I had and how much I needed. But there's something important here that I've learned through this whole process. Um, it's that your network is truly the most valuable thing you can have. And a network is not about how many connections you have on LinkedIn. I used to think it was. Networking is not about um, going to an event and schmoozing with people. Although it can be. I mean, that can be part of it. But if you're like me, if you're like the engineer who was like, fuck this people thing. Like, I just want code. I don't want to deal with people. All I want is code. Well, you probably thought that networking wasn't particularly helpful. Um, and as an engineer, it wasn't. As a startup founder, turns out it's way more important. And I really wish I had done the work earlier to build this network out, as opposed to killing myself to learn as much as I can about all these different technology stacks for a company that did not give two shits about me. It was willing to chew me up and spit me out because then it was just going to replace me with the next person. It was big enough. I didn't fucking care. The leadership at that company didn't care about me. I was a resource. And I've realized just how prevalent that is everywhere. And so that's why I'm introducing chaos marketing. All of the existing systems end up benefiting the incumbents because when you have the most data, you have the smartest AI. That's no longer true because we're creating data faster than people can even capture it. And we're creating new types of data that the systems that exist weren't designed to deal with. And because of that, there's actually a really cool exploit that we can use. And this is this concept that I'm calling chaos marketing. Um, it's chaos marketing because it doesn't require a defined system to work. When you think about companies, there are these very complex systems that are designed to move different types of information and resources from one place to another. These companies tend to move slow. Because companies tend to move slow, a lot of times they hire agencies to help. Agencies move a lot faster. Um, Agencies are designed to kind of learn as much as possible about a very specific area of the economy, and kind of plug into the economy for a given company. And so what we're seeing is that as the internet grows and as incentive structures grow and change, everything is getting more complex. We've got more social media to deal with. Like, there's different types of platforms that are popping up. Things are changing constantly. Okay, we've got email marketing. Now we've got short form video, and you've got to kind of do all this to kind of stay up to date. Because guess what? If you aren't, your competition is. And one of the things that I've realized is that we have this huge issue now with the amount of marketing that we are shoving down people's throats. We, like, as you get to be a bigger company, it's simply cheaper for you to spend money than it is employee time. And so if you need to get results, you just have to buy access to big enough audiences. Now, that's the easiest way to buy attention, is you buy a big audience. It's also the least effective way to gain an audience. Because guess what? If you're in Kim Kardashian's audience, does she have any clue who you are? Or are you a stat? If you're watching this, you're a stat. Um, if you're not, please reach out because I'd be really curious to see that connection. Um, But what ends up needing to be the case is like you only get one way communication that way. So when you have like a large uh, audience to like a single person in a network, um, you only get one way broadcast communication. Uh, and that is great statistically, it's bad predictably. And what I mean in this case is, so given a large enough data set, you can guarantee that it will happen the number of times that you need it to happen. You see this all the time online. It's just a numbers game. This is how we get slop. We have AIs that are cranking out as much shitty cold outreach as they can. They're flooding DMs, they're flooding email inboxes, they're flooding everything. They're flooding all the channels. So they, basically there's two things you can do. You can go wider on channels, and if you're a big company, that's exactly what you do. Fine. You just have someone else handle a different marketing channel. If you're small, it's really hard to break through the noise. I can't even tell you how many times I've launched a product at this point. I think I've made, well, let's see, I think I made $1,000 on a course, and then I think I made a couple hundred on a Twitter product that was probably my most useful product, but became completely financially not viable after Elon took over Twitter and started charging for API access. That set me back a bit because I was really working on a suite of tooling for that. But the so the thing is, all of these systems tend toward complexity, and what you're getting is you're also seeing that the people with the large audiences are now talking more than they ever were before. And so these companies are doing all sorts of negotiation over the prices of large audiences, um, and kind of like tapping into these, but they're not paying any attention to the small networks. And with chaos engines, I want to move, or sorry, let me back up. With chaos marketing, I want to basically look at how can we connect a path through multiple different network channels in order to create some kind of predictable outcome. And so this is different because for a large enough set, there's no guarantee that I will have a predictable path through, this chaos network. And so in terms of a chaos network, imagine, you're in this graph of nodes and you've got connections kind of coming and going, right? You're never actually sure which connections are going to be there. And so what you have to do is to navigate this kind of network, you have to travel to the next node and see which nodes are available from there, and then make a decision of which of the connections is most likely to get you closer to your desired end state. And so in this case, you don't actually have like a predictable path, let's say on, X, right? Twitter. If I tweet something out, I will get this number of impressions, which, we can say has a conversion rate of 0.1%. I don't know what it is for some of these large brands, whatever. That's okay for them. They have a large enough audience, in theory at least, to do that. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is instead I want to do lots of these little explorations through networks in the chaos. And so I truly think of it like a roguelike video game, right? I've got I'm at some position in the network. I am where I'm at, right? I am who I am. Um, and I've got information from, let's say, a brand partner. Um, and in this case, I'm going to give a shout out to Sublime. Sublime is the first partner I'm working with on this. I'm going to actually do Sublime specific content probably here later. I'm already approaching an hour here, which is what I budgeted for this. And I should have gone over because I should have known I can talk for a long time. Um, so, with Sublime, I have a referral link. And my performance is based off of how many people I can get to sign up for Sublime through that referral link. Um, but one of the things I'm working with Sari on is a way to set up an agreement that is based on how well I perform compared to the average group of users. And so when I'm looking at networks, I'm saying I want to show that the network tied into me is more valuable than the rest of the user base. And so by doing that, one of the things that I love about Sublime and the way that, Sari described it is like a paying user is a user that values what we're doing. And we're not worried about trying to do all of this like marketing stuff and trying to be like weird and like we're just doing our thing that we believe this needs to be like, and it takes how long it takes, um and the product is this highly crafted thing. It's a very human product that I absolutely love, which is why I reached out about setting up some kind of partnership. I was like begging, like, come on, sorry, let me promote Sublime somehow. We'll figure something out. And I was like, but I also want to be not only like the top referrer to Sublime, but the best. I want the people that I refer to be subscribed for the longest. Um, and this is something that chaos marketing gives you a huge advantage in. I don't assume that anybody is the same. I also don't base things on labels. And the reason I don't base things on labels is because, like, the idea of a software engineer, the expectation of what a software engineer is has changed a ton over the last 20 years. And we've got people valuing it who don't understand the fact that it's changed. Because a lot of the things are determined by the people who are determining value. And like, it's this really weird system we've set up where basically the people who, uh, you know, distribute the money get to say how much things are worth, which is a really weird kind of anti-pattern when you're building complex systems, because you want the risk to be calculated separately from the like the funder, and basically you want a certain balance to a given transaction where you want the risk to be distributed with the incentives aligned, and kind of shared capture of any upside, and then hopefully distributed risk. And that's not what companies do now. And so they've got all these predictable systems in place that help them rely on everything being predictable. With chaos marketing, nothing is predictable. Um, and I assume nothing is predictable. And so, what I'm looking to do is create this chaos engine, is what I'm calling it, where it simulates the network that I want to um, test against. And the cool thing about this is that I believe that I can basically set it up, as I said, like this roguelike game where, basically you've got all of these different AI characters and they try to traverse this network of levels while trying to accomplish goals. And so, basically at each node in the network, which if we assume is a person or a system, you can kind of think of them interchangeably if you just understand that, like, once you're at the node, you have options of like interacting with that system at that node or figuring out a connection from that node to a different node. And so what you do is basically you generate a whole bunch of starting points and then you send them through this chaos engine, which simulates traversal through the nodes. And then what you do is you try to see if you can start predicting which nodes are more likely to exist at a given point in time. Um, and because you're collecting all of this chaotic data from all of these different runs that don't necessarily do anything individually, you can actually overlap them. And because it's a chaotic environment and not one that has predetermined patterns in it, you can actually make a lot better long-term predictions because you can kind of see which patterns over time are more likely to stay in place, which ones are likely to like pop up and go away. And this actually gets more and more predictable when you actually realize that this sounds like it's not a very predictable system. Um, but when you realize that all of the people, or all of the nodes in the network can be people, um, you can actually say that like there's um, a trust value that exists as the edge in this network, and because you've got this you know edge with a like a given um, trust value, you have to overcome the risk of the person there to put any of their like trust at risk in this network node, right? And when you think about this in terms of people, again, because that's really what this comes down to, um, we have uh, people who you want to focus, like you want to build up trust with people because that means you've got this reliable network in place and you don't want people to have to risk that trust by backing you and then not being reliable, right? That's kind of the worst case scenario. And because of the way that we've set things up, um, people are already facing too much risk as it is. Because again, these large companies, especially, are pushing risk down to the bottom of the economy. And as such, the people at the bottom are less willing than ever to risk anything. Uh, they already face too much unpredictability from everything that they're part of. Um, and that just makes it like harder and harder to kind of break through. And the beauty of chaos marketing is that it breaks through the what's the word I'm looking for here? Um, it breaks through the cynicism, I think, of the market. And this is something that I think is going to be huge going forward because um, one of the things that we see is there's just a huge lack of trust in everything. We don't have trust in institutions. We don't have trust in the market. We don't have trust in our leaders. Uh, Basically, there's just not very much trust in the world right now, I've noticed. And that's unfortunate. And I think we actually need to optimize for trust because in these chaotic network environments, trust is actually the one thing that you can rely on. And that's what all of these system designers get wrong. And this is what I got wrong for so long. I was trying to make everything data and like easily computable. And humans are not that. And that has been something that has been somewhat hard for me to learn. Um, I also realized that I've been terrible at this whole like streaming thing, and I could be doing something like actually sharing a diagram related to this this kind of system. The kind of so this chaos engine here. Um, the idea is that basically like it's just creating these networks in between. And actually, now that I described it without looking at the diagram, I think I did a better job describing it than the diagram does. Um, and so I'm probably going to use actually the transcript from this to generate a better new diagram. Um, but I think it does kind of show that like basically you can find these different paths through the network as opposed to these kind of defined systems that are basically like individual systems, small systems, whatever. And actually they can be humans, they can be AIs. It doesn't actually matter in this type of model. But what we do is we can actually use this to get a really good idea of what's possible. And one of the things, though, is that I don't recommend actually using this to run your life necessarily. One of the things that I found with it is that it's kind of unpredictable as to which nodes will be active on a given point in time. And if you don't have enough nodes in a network, it pretty much guarantees failure. Because what you want to do is you want to have a network where there's always a path through, and sometimes it's not always straightforward, but it's kind of constantly moving. And if you kind of take this idea of the roguelike game, there's some objective that you're trying to get to, and you've got to kind of constantly move from node to node in the network until there's like either you don't have a connection or whatever, like you kind of die off, right? Basically there's no possible point in which you reach the end. And so what you want to do is you want to kind of run lots of these little simulations, and or what you can do, and this is basically how I'm implementing this, right? And so this is the idea behind the Make the Internet Weird Again marketing campaign. So I'm actually building a social network, and it's like, well, but are you? Yes. Um, and this is simply the outermost level of it. And there's a reason that I'm selecting weird. I don't want people to show up for the standard incentives. There are two types of people that I want to attract with this. I want to attract people who are like creative and like kind of positioned against this like huge homogenization, optimization of everything. So like that's part of it. And I want to select people who are not winning in the current systems. I've tried to talk to people who are winning in the current systems. And the problem is if they're winning in the current systems, they aren't always that interested in hearing how the current systems aren't that great in a lot of ways. It's not that they don't care. They just aren't incentivized to care as quickly as someone who has no money. And this is one of the things that I have um, become all too aware of is like the desire of someone to get something across the finish line, or to do anything really, is based on themselves, and has absolutely nothing to do with me. Um, which is totally fine because I'm the same way, right? Like everything, like I have to figure out how everything factors in my own priority stack. Um, and this is actually like, because we're having everybody do this individually. Um, it's actually kind of it's not great. There's just a lot of duplicated work, and so with this email list, I'm trying to build a very specific, like, large network of, what I'm calling chaos agents. So part of what I'm doing here is I'm also giving them an identity. I'm giving them something they can tie onto. This is something that I think is important. I think people do need identities. It helps people understand where they fit into the world. And that's really what identities are about. It's about understanding your place. And, I've been trying this for a long time, and it's been really difficult, frankly. It's been, something I've just found uh, very hard to explain to people, like, what exactly I'm doing, because I'm doing so many things. You start researching, you know, money and information, and guess what? Everything can be related to money and information. When you start relating it to everything, then people are like, "Wow, you seem to know a lot about everything." Well, yeah, kind of. Like that's what I've been focusing on. Um, but I've also realized that I can't rely on people to need results as badly as I do. Um, and that's, that is what it is. But so with this, um, man, I am all over the place with this. Uh, with this email list, um, as I grow it, it actually has a really interesting function on it, because I'm giving people an identity, and I'm adding them to this social network. Um, they just don't know who anyone is at first, so they're like a secret agent. They're a chaos agent. Um, this also plays into the idea that I've been running with the Creator Insurance Agency, or the CIA. One of the things that I've been playing with in these um, memetic marketing agencies is giving people concepts to hold on to loosely, but it gives people an anchoring point. Um, so with creators, I'm so it's creator insurance, which is a subset of human insurance, which I talked about at the beginning, which is kind of my overarching model. Um, and that's actually available on my. I've got a GitHub here that has everything, and so this actually shows the. So I've got kind of this first principles economics write up. Then that's kind of part of the memetic economics, and then this idea of complexity inflation. Um, and then so then we've got the memetic marketing agencies, and then this creator insurance agency, right? Um, One of the things that I found when trying to work with creators is I start talking about, like, data science or engineering or anything like that, and their eyes glaze over. I start talking about taking their processes and turning it into products to help them, and that feels too risky, even when I'm offering to, like, just basically, like, um, split the revenue, and do all of the work in exchange for sharing an audience. Um, it's actually crazy how many different things I've tried with this. So I decided to play it a different way. I'm doing the creator insurance agency in the CIA, and I want it to be focused around this idea of like analysts and like travel and traveling between different platforms online. Um, I think this is actually a hugely valuable concept that we need to do a bit more to flesh out here. And I think I'm going to spend some time on that because the idea of like different social platforms as completely different worlds, and then actually even like subsets of these social networks, being their own demon, teapot, right? If you're on Twitter, it's teapot, this part of Twitter, it's the post rats, post rationalists. There's fun story about the post rats. I saw post rats and I was like, oh, it's because these people post a lot. That's kind of funny. No, it's for post rationalists. And I just had no idea what I was talking about when I first saw that. But I've learned, and that's kind of the fun thing about Teapot. Um, but there's a ton of like really cool people doing incredibly cool research there. And I want to use that to help creators do really cool things. And so with this idea of the creator insurance agency, I want it to be like an agency that is designed to help protect creators from the stupid shit that tech companies are going to do with AI. I guarantee you what they're going to do because they're a bunch of people running tech companies and they're incentivized in the way that tech companies are, and they're incentivized by data. Um, and because of that, they're extremely vulnerable. And this is what I'm going to be proving. Um, it's going to be possible to uh, basically like seed these large companies AI models with bad data, um, because it's not that hard when you understand what a company is optimizing for and what they're looking at. That's kind of the thing I want people to realize. I want to actually show, hey, like we've got a lot of like really big issues in these businesses here, and they're going to be attacked unless you do something with it because they're just not designed well. But they're not going to listen to that. So instead, I'm going to build a social media platform with an email list and show them how to do it better. Um, and so this gets into this thing here with this idea of like people as undervalued assets. I don't care what your label is. In these kind of chaos engine scenarios, I care what you can do for me. You're a node in this network. Can you either do something or can you point me to a node who can? And when you think of it that way, and you kind of put it into people networks, like, wow, you sound like kind of a dick. Well, kind of, yeah, that's how it ends up coming off. But when you realize that, you can have chaos engines where anybody is free to ask for anything at any time, but also people are free to say no at any time. Um, this is where the magic happens because then you're actually incentivized to um, do things that uh, people like actually benefit from. Um, and if you don't, they won't do stuff. People do stuff at work for the stability of a paycheck that's actually not all that stable anymore because when all the prices are changing and your paycheck isn't, guess what? You're still fucked because everything's getting more expensive and you're getting poor. Doesn't matter if you've got a bunch of money in the bank and all these companies where people are doing shit for you because then you don't have that risk. You're diversified. You're safe. You're smart. You're rich. Those are all correlated. They're not actually, but thus is memetics. Um, so we've got, this idea of humans as undervalued assets. When I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, so if I know what different brands want in terms of outcomes, and I have a way to measure that, then I can create a network and provide enough activation energy, which is basically this concept I've been working on in networks of like, in order to accomplish a given outcome for a given network, what is the activation energy required? And so, depending on the trust value and basically how easily information moves back and forth in the network, you know, can this be accomplished? And so, as I'm looking at this activation energy, you've got to uh, you've got to test it because you don't actually know. And this is something I realized last week because, I'll be honest, I've been falling victim to memetic uh, beliefs that certain things will happen faster than than they will. Um, on Twitter, I've been building relationships and I've been sharing all of this research and sharing all of these ideas. And last week, I went to ask for something from like the networks that I was in, and I realized that um, I don't have nearly the activation energy I thought I did in certain parts of my network. Um, which, let me tell you, is something you do not want to find out when you're doing it on a combination of being for yourself and one of your good friends who is needing help. And this is something that it kind of hurt to realize, right? Like when you're in these networks and you're spending a lot of time on Twitter or social media of any sort, uh, and you're talking to people and you are building up relationships, it feels very real. And in a lot of ways it is, but also in a lot of ways it's not. And when you go to ask for something from your network, you get to figure out your status. This is something I have not wanted to play the fucking status game. I hate the status game. I hate all status games. Um, I will be honest. My life would be a lot easier right now if I gave a shit about status games. I've gotten caught before, almost wrapped up in these various status games because you know what? They're fun to play. And it feels good. When I was at Copy AI, I one of the first things that I did, so I'd been there a month, and the company flew me out to San Francisco um, to meet up with some of the other people on the team. And we got invited to one of the investors' houses. We got to hang out in a hot tub, like overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. And yeah, you know what? That was fucking cool. That felt great. Um, but it doesn't mean anything. Um, that showed me like, yeah, that stuff would be great, but it's not what I care about. Ultimately, I care about people, and that's what all this comes from. Because I've realized that there's so much talent out there. There are so many people doing incredible things, and the world is just against them. And the problem is we actually have a couple problems here. We have it more visible that people are able to have an exponential outcome. And it's becoming harder than ever to have an exponential outcome because you have to be able to stand out from the crowd. And you're competing on a global scale constantly. It's fucking exhausting. It's like I really do think that trying to be a like professional on social media is being a professional athlete of a different type. And in fact, I actually think those correlations go very, very strongly with entrepreneurship and athletics, and because everything is kind of a spectator sport now. And I have some plans for that because I think there's a lot of fun things that we can play with there. Um, but this, with chaos networking, one of the things that I found is that the easiest way to minimize the activation energy needed for something to happen is to maximize the amount of fun. Because guess what? People will do fun things because it's fun. Now, what happens online when that happens? People do something fun. They enjoy themselves. Somebody sees them enjoying themselves, usually for free, and says, I got to get in on that action. If they're doing this for free, I can make them pay for it. And it always ends up being from like the weirdest parts of the network that the pressure to monetize comes in. It's never at the point of value creation. So I've been asking, like, what if it is at the point of value creation? And what if I can give people quests? So that's with Make the Internet Weird Again, I'm going to offer quests. And if I offer a set of quests that I believe combined will achieve some outcome, and I have a large enough network to assume that, like, you know, some percentage of that network will be able to accomplish, the entire set of quests, my goal is to prove that I'll be able to, like, guarantee a certain outcome even without being able to plan exactly what that's going to look like in practice. The first implementation of this is coming next week. I'm attending neurodiversion in Austin, Texas. Um, and that's going to be kind of the heart of the movement. Um, I've been reaching out to people and companies I know in Austin that might be interested in sponsoring it, because as I pull in sponsorship dollars, I will be able to deploy the networks I've got. I've got a team of like 7 people for a street team in Austin so far, and I'm planning on recruiting people from the conference. And so, depending on the resources I have available, I'm going to basically be using that to cause all sorts of chaos and doing weird things that break the frame, because everybody's living in this world where they're focused on everything being predictable. And when everything is predictable, the incumbents win. They have more resources to make it more predictable. When you have enough resources, anything can be predictable. But when you know what someone's predicting, you can be not predictable. You can be chaotic. You can break the frame, and then you can go in with actions that don't sell somebody something. They promote friendship. We're in a loneliness epidemic right now. It's massive, and it's because we've mixed people and marketing and economics and education. Like, we've kind of thrown everything together, and we've decided, like, oh, this is what's super valuable. And it's not. Over time, the world is going to realize that it's all about the small trusted networks. We're going back towards tribalism. but not in the way that it looks like we are on social media. Social media is amplifying the negative, big, loud tribes, and it's not showing their quiet, builder, cooperative tribes. This streaming show is a chance for that to change. I'm going to be showing the builders. I'm going to be showing the optimists. I'm going to be showing the creators who are doing human things for human reasons. We're going to be using products to build out marketing campaigns. We're going to be doing some vibe coding. We've got a whole bunch of really cool things coming up on this live stream as I figure out what the hell I'm doing, because I'm not very good at it yet. Um, but I'm a believer in building in public, and one of the things that I was working on, and I can showcase some Claude here. Um, so I've been playing around with uh, these memetic marketing systems, which are going to be LLMs that I train specifically um, as the embodiment of the brand. And so, if you've been following what done with the Make the Internet Weird Again campaign so far, I've got Glitch. Glitch is the ghost of internet past future. It is the embodiment of weird. It is the embodiment of the manifesto I wrote around what I was feeling about how much I hate the enshittification of everything online right now. And I was longing for the days of actually yearning. Yearning is the word I was looking for there, maybe even more than longing. Um, Yearning for this past where the internet was weird and beautiful and friendly, because guess what? You went online to find the weirdos that didn't exist where you were. And now everybody's online, and so again, it's super hard to find the weirdos online. So I'm going to make it easier to find the weirdos in person, and then we can connect online. So Building Public University is going on tour, and it's starting off in Austin. Um, and so as part of this, I've been playing around with the embodiment of Building Public University from that manifesto. I've written a whole bunch of manifestos over the years. I created an embodiment of Building Public University. So that is Professor Prototype. Um, and so, if you look here, I believe iteration beats perfection every time. If you look at this, I'm optimizing for iteration. I decided I wanted to do it. I started streaming. I started talking. I'm still doing it an hour and a half later, which is remarkable stamina. I can listen to myself talk forever, with or without an audience. It's perfect. Um, And okay, I share L's as proudly as my W's. If I tell you how many times I've lost lately, you wouldn't even believe it. And I'm going to keep losing because I love losing. If I'm losing, it means I don't understand how to win yet. I am way too willing to lose before I win, because it teaches me way more. It's this learning in chaos. I expect to lose in chaos, right? You play a roguelike expecting to lose, because then when you win, it's so much greater and so much more valuable, interestingly. Um, and so, yeah, I love this. Like, Prof P doesn't teach building in public, they are building in public personified. Half experimental scientist, half community organizer. And that's what I'm going for, except I don't actually want to organize a community. I want to point people to the right communities. I want to be a community router, I guess, is maybe um, more the thing to do for it. But I wanted to bring this up because this is the manifesto, right? Like, fuck the algorithm. Goddamn right. Like, share secrets. There are no secrets. If you're not sharing information, other people aren't sharing information with you, and the world is changing too fucking fast for us all to keep up on it individually. This is why I believe in APIs over moats. This is why everything I do is collaboration, not competition. I will give you all of the plans for every company I am building, and I hope to God you are able to do it easier and much more successfully than I have, because I have fucked up every single part of it royally in order to come up with these models, and how they work. And so, um, please don't do what I've done. I have put myself through fucking hell for a long time to figure this shit out. Oh yeah, there we go. Collaboration. I didn't even read the next one before I was talking. This is so ingrained in it. Just try shit instead of overthinking it. Fucking yeah, just do it. Like, so many times I'll have a friend be like, "I want to do this thing." Like, cool, let's do it. Be like, "What?" Like, don't talk about it. Let's just do it. I've got a friend, Justin. He's going to be on here at some point. I know it because I'm going to drag him on, because it was his whole idea to talk about this anyway, and I help him every week. I work with him. It's coaching, it's training, it's friendship, it's whatever. I do it because I enjoy doing it, and he's helping me. Right? He's focused on education and how we can get kids to really do cool shit. He's got my 10-year-old interested in streaming who threw up his first stream, and I was like, well, shit, if he can do it, I can do it. Right? Like, this is the communities over algorithms part. Um, when other people are doing things and trying shit, that gives you ideas. This whole show's idea is a direct ripoff of TBPN. They're doing live stream, highly informative broadcast, 5 days a week. I'm doing all of that except without the budget, without the famous guests, and basically for more creators, indie hackers, and researchers. There's um, there's a ton of money in doing it to the other crowd, the established crowd, the crowd with money. If you ask anybody, they'll say make products and services for people with money. I'm really bad at that. I want to help the people who don't have the money, because those are the most valuable. Because if you help them get money, then they'll be able to pay you even more money. Like, it's great. Um, but you do have to have money first. And so one of the questions that keeps coming up is like, where does that money come from? I thought it's going to be products. It hasn't yet. Again, I've launched a lot of products and I've failed a lot of times. Um, but one of the things I've been able to figure out is communication. Um, and not necessarily communication with individuals, oddly enough. Some individuals, yes. Most individuals, no. But what I've been able to do is I'm now comfortable sitting up here and talking for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Longer than that, probably. I can actually talk on a Zoom call for many hours, when I'm excited about the topic I'm talking on. And that's the thing. Like, I love this stuff. I mean, I want to help everybody be a builder. I don't need to gatekeep anything. There's so much work to do. We're wasting so much time and energy on stupid shit that doesn't matter. I want to use chaos marketing as a way to take that marketing budget and turn it into friendships and lasting connections, because in a chaotic environment, those are what fucking last. And, I found on going all in on Twitter over the last few years, um, it's possible to build a great relationship on Twitter, but it's also harder than ever now. And Twitter isn't a relationship that you can rely on. I'm collecting relationships on there, but I'm also moving them off platform as soon as I can. I'm moving them to email. I'm moving them to whatever. Not LinkedIn. I really don't like LinkedIn. It's okay. I don't have anybody watching me on LinkedIn because I have no audience on LinkedIn because I'm never there. I'm gonna have to be probably at some point. But I'm gonna let Glitch do that, and that's kind of the purpose of Glitch here. And this is in the chaotic marketing, in breaking the frame. I believe that I can give Glitch autonomous free reign over social media, and grow its audience faster and easier than I could, um, and frankly better. And what I want to do is I want to end up creating like an basically a social networking site for these marketing LLMs that can actually communicate at a higher level of data transfer, which really focuses on user data sharing to determine if a given product is a good fit, or if there's a better fit. And when we decouple money from survival, and all of the shit that goes around with like people's individual plans for their lives, like it's really hard for people to agree to a restructuring if they think that they're going to lose something in that restructuring, but they don't have to. There's an infinite amount of money in the world. I've mathematically proven it. It's all in the PhD repo and associated links. If anyone's interested in that, it's all there. Um, has been for years. I've been trying to pull it all together and into something that somebody will actually look at and read now. Um, and Yeah, I think this is important too. Everyone's both student and teacher. There's so much I don't know. There's so much I want to know. I actually need to make more money than ever before because there's so many like courses and people that I want to work with and things that I want to know and understand. Um, and so right now, it's all about launching this marketing campaign because I need to make the internet weird again. This campaign is the most fun I have had with fucking anything. I look at Jason Levin as chaos marketing ideal case study. Um, Jason is doing what he loves with Meme Lord Tech. I fucking love Meme Lord Tech. Got an affiliate for that too that I'm gonna have to like throw out somewhere into the world and get people to sign up with it. Jason is showing what it means to build out like a company as a meme, and that's what I'm doing with Glitch and with Professor P. All of this stuff. I'm building out a brand that is its own marketer because I realized that I have to separate out the marketing from like the human in me, and I probably also need to separate out the research too. Uh, It's really hard when all of these things are kind of intermingled, and interplaying in kind of weird, chaotic ways. Um, but it's been really helpful because it's helped me see what is like what is possible, and there are a lot of really cool things that are becoming possible and that are possible now. And Yeah, um, I think this is my spot. This is where I'm meant to be. This is what I've been training for. This live stream talking, this discussion of ideas. Um, Currently have a weekly segment coming up where we're going to be showcasing experiments and ideas that I collaborate on with an AI company who's doing some pretty cool stuff. Chatted with one of the founders for that this morning. Um, as I said, also going to be shouting out Sublime a lot. I've got some ideas for different segments that I'm going to be doing with Sublime on the regular. Um, and Yeah, Revid is one I'm excited to be working on. Tebow, if you're familiar on Twitter, has done a fantastic job with that. And actually, I'm really excited to use Outrank as well, which is his programmatic SEO tool. I've got an operation in progress to do a little bit of fun chaos involving vibe coding and vibe camp, and trying to kind of mix up those two concepts to rank for search traffic. So we're going to see how that goes. We'll probably do that on stream at some point. Um, and Yeah, I mean, other than that, it's just going to be kind of fun to see where this shit goes. And also, I don't see anybody watching on Twitter, although I think this is probably where I'm likely have the most actual uh, audience. But I don't know if let's see. I don't see. I don't even know where I'm live. Like, does it show me live? Here we go. I am live. Oh, I've got 30 views. Okay, cool. Okay, that's not bad actually. I'll take that for the first day. And it doesn't seem like any comments. Or if there are comments, they're hidden. I don't know. Nobody's talking back to me, which is fine. I've got plenty to say. I can sit here and talk for hours. If you haven't, everybody's left. Um, I had a couple viewers on YouTube there that apparently decided I have no longer been saying stuff of value, which is totally fine because I'm really not at this point. But yeah, I think overall I'm really excited for where this is going, and so um, if you're interested in sponsorship, let's talk. TBPN, talking to you. I want you to be the presenting sponsor. I think you're setting the standard for what I want this to be. Um, and I would love to have you as kind of the presenting sponsor to kind of you know throw some good weight behind it. And so we'll see if that happens. I'm going to see what I can do to make that happen. Um, and then yeah, tomorrow. So today was Memetic Marketing Monday, and we talked about chaos marketing. Um, Tomorrow I think is going to be Technical Tutorial Tuesday. And I don't know what I'm going to be talking about yet. It's probably going to be whatever I'm fucking around with and vibe coding to try to see what I can be putting out into the world. One of the things with chaos marketing is that because building is cheap, you do it quickly and often. You want to set up is much like you want to be able to try to capture attention kind of periodically with these little projects, and then use it in these short-lived systems that transfer information into these longer-lived systems. And so if you think about this idea of kind of this marketing LLM at the core of the business, which is long-lived, you've got the edge of the network, which is kind of the memetic layer, where people are trying to kind of attach onto that. And once you get people to attach, then you want to kind of move them through what ends up being a funnel. And so you actually attach kind of a funnel to your marketing LLM and then try to create this black hole effect that sucks only the right people in and actually excludes the wrong people, which is kind of pretty cool. So that's where we're getting at with the marketing engine, which will also be connected up to this live stream and be pushing out content onto various other media channels, because that's how we're going to demo this shit. Because frankly, I'm tired of being all of this research and stuff going into stuff that isn't being paid for, because frankly I like food and shelter and things like that, and I should probably focus on that being a priority over me knowing stuff. Brains are weird at what they value, man. Let me tell you that. Um, and that's because memes, the power of memes, like the power of memes will make you neglect your own needs for that of the group. And that's an incredibly powerful and scary, terrifying fucking idea, isn't it? Um, yeah, there's been so much I've done that I've kind of sacrificed my own stability for the sake of um, trying to do something greater, and that's at costs. And I've gotten things wrong, and it's been hard in kind of these memetic environments because trust isn't obvious. It has to be sussed out. You have to figure out where the trust in the networks lie. Um, and chaos marketing is great because it relies on revealed trust, not assumed trust because someone's like a follower. Um, Anyway, I think that's it for today. I've been going an hour and 45 now. That's pretty good for day one, episode one of Infinity, or at least five. Let's commit to five. We'll do Monday through Friday this week, and then see what happens. Because yeah, Like I think this has a ton of potential and it's going to be fun, and that's the most important thing. So I'm optimizing for fun, and we're having fun because I get to sit here and just talk at the camera, and it's fantastic. And eventually, people are going to be talking back at me, and that's going to be even more amazing, and it's going to be fun. And yeah, and then we're going to get TBPN as the presenting sponsor. So if anyone's out there watching this, I see you on Twitch, I think. Um, you know, if you want to be part of that, there's going to be incentives structured to help get some of these quests. Or, also the other thing that I'm looking to do is start going on other people's podcasts and start talking to people because, again, if you didn't notice, I enjoy talking and the sound of my own voice. I even have some kind of interesting things to talk about. At least I assume, because the one thing that I've seen is that people enjoy talking to me. They don't enjoy giving me money for it, but they love talking to me. Um, yeah, I don't know. The economy's weird with what it values. Anyway, that's it for today. Um, gonna call it there. Let's see how this goes. Gonna go find some sponsors now that I've got an episode of me just talking for 2 hours. I'm hoping the fact that I just show them that, like, oh, here's my first episode. It's me just talking nonstop for 2 hours with absolutely no feedback from the audience. Um, I feel like that should be a pretty good indicator of what I am able and willing to do in service of this mission. Because, yeah, there's a lot of people who need to get their work out in front of the world. And this is what I've been training for. And so it's time to start putting the spotlight on some cool people doing cool shit. And we're going to start getting some projects funded because, like, fuck, man, there's so goddamn much money out there. Like, why are we not getting it to the people doing the shit that fucking matters? There's so many of them. We just need to put the spotlight on them. And that's what I'm here to do. And so, if you're out there looking for some revenue to, some cash to deploy, I'm going to hook you up with some really cool people doing really cool shit, who are going to use your money to make the world a better place. And we're going to use some chaos marketing to turn that into some actual, like, meaningful revenue as well. So fuck it, let's do this. Let's go out. Let's market some shit. Um, if you're a startup and you're looking to do some marketing, and by startup I mean indie hacker or creator or anybody doing something new, experimenting. I love experiments. Experiments are fun. Do experiments and actually go buy Anne Laura Lecomte's new book, Tiny Experiments. It's out last week. Um, I did write a newsletter on it. I do recommend you read it. I haven't read the book yet myself, but I love her as a person and as a thinker, and her idea of tiny experiments is exactly what I recommend with building public university. And so, kind of this, just try shit, right? Like, it's the experimentation. Uh, that's the vibe we're cultivating. Transparent, something, something, whatever it said. Uh, there we go. Transparent, collaborative, experimental, and sustainable. There we go. That's what we're shooting for. And so we're gonna go ahead and get all this shit figured out with tiny experiments along the way. And if you don't know what to do, go buy Anne Laur's book. And yeah, and then join maketheinternetweirdagain.com on the mailing list, because it turns out that being a chaos agent is a great time to run experiments, because if you start figuring out how to coordinate in these different types of networks, you can end up doing some very, very cool things. And the great part of a chaos social media network is that you can't see the connections or the communications. It's all happening um, in various places. It's not happening on a single platform. And so the data is all spread around. It can be easily validated, but impossible to predict. which turns out that's going to be an incredibly valuable thing that people are going to have to keep in mind. Um, I actually think I think that's really fucking huge. I don't think I've ever said it exactly that way before, but I think that's yeah, that's gonna be pretty key. I'm gonna have to go back and check the notes on that one because that's good. But yeah, we're going to be doing some cool shit together, and I want to turn this into something fun for everybody, not just me. I mean, I'm going to keep doing it because I'm going to have fun, and either I'm going to, like, I don't know, have everything fucking turned off because this doesn't take off, and nobody will see it, and that'll be that, or it's gonna fucking work. And by that, I mean it's gonna fucking work because there's no other option. So let's fucking make this work together, and go out there, cause some chaos, and make the internet weird again.com. Go sign up for that mailing list. Be a chaos agent. All right, go out, go cause some chaos, go build some shit, and show it off. Starting now, I'm gonna say let's do a fucking weekly build show off. Everybody can submit a build, and I'll just I don't know. I'll probably show them all on the live stream or something on Friday. Let's maybe say that. If you're watching this, listening to this, getting this information into your brain somehow, um, let me know if you build something and want to show it to me because I would love to see it. I love seeing all the new cool weird shit that is getting built, and I want other people to see all of that weird cool shit as well. So let's fucking get it seen. All right, folks. I think I've talked for long enough, and I've kind of got to pee, so I'm gonna go do that. Y'all take care. This was fun. Let's do it again tomorrow. We'll say same time, same place, same bat channel. That is 12 p.m. noon Eastern time. So I will see you then.